the character played by Luke Evans just really flat out amazing. Definitely was just as good as the classic version. Also, definitely amazing voice. Holy cow! I mean, I honestly, there's always just that one moment where you're just like, wow, this person could be a really good action star. And I mean, I mentioned this with Gerard Butler, where, see him in 300. Oh man, he's a complete badass. And I see him in the Phantom of the Opera. My jaw's on the ground, just like, this guy can sing. Are you kidding me? Same thing with Hugh Jackman. He's Wolverine, and he's also in Les Miserables, which is like, he could sing. Are you kidding me? What degree of frozen hell have I stepped into here? This is amazing. Jeez Louise. But Gaston just, again, as pompous and arrogant and as bitch. And you mentioned, he was a former soldier, and just adding a little bit more background to him just really made it out to be just a really good, character to kind of love, but at the same time, like, you have to remember what he does, especially at the end when he, when he supposedly kills the beast. It's just like, well, that's so much for the love for you, man. Next thing you know, he just falls down to the, to the abyss where people are saying like, oh, did Gaston survive? That was a part of the article that I think I either shared on my Facebook page, or either I just looked at it and forgot to share it, but they were just like, oh, these are the questions that, we had from watching Beauty and the Beast. And I said, some of these questions are the same. And it's like, oh, did the Enchantress do this? Why did the Enchantress do this? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're basically saying the same thing over and over again. Okay. And one of them was, did Gaston survive? And I'm like, you're really going to put the shoe on that foot? Really? There is no way that anybody could survive a fall like that. I'm sorry, but even if he falls in water, he's probably not going to live.
Yeah. I really liked, sorry, did you say Luke Evans? I'm
Yes.
so bad at remembering the names you're saying
Yeah, it was
right
Luke
now.
Evans.
Okay. I loved him. He did awesome. He was so funny, especially when, LeFou, says, je ne sais pas, say what? Speaks French, and he's like, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't even know what you just said. I'm like, you're in France. And that was the humor of when you were talking about the English accent stuff. I think that was, obviously breaking the fourth wall and being like, yeah, we obviously don't speak French. So, he had so many one-liners that were hilarious and just such a wow, what a douche. This guy is awful. I loved it. I thought he had a fantastic voice. I love how they extended his the bar scene to be, kind of dancing. At first I was kind of like, what are they doing? Why are they pausing the middle of the song to do a dance thing? But I'm like, Gaston would do something like this. It's all about me. Now it's my turn to dance. Now, let me do a scene of me spitting and all my antlers. And I loved all that. I think it was really cute. I also want to say, the last thing I saw him in was that Dracula movie, the new Dracula that came out.
Okay. And
I loved him in that, too. It was Dracula Returns or Dracula something. It was a year or two ago. And he was a badass in that. He was Dracula. He was amazing. He's attractive. He played the role perfectly, and everybody loved to hate him. And I kind of felt bad, at the end, when everybody's dancing. I'm like, oh, I wish Gaston got to come and dance with everybody, just limping, or do the old Star Wars. He's back as a ghost, enjoying the whole after party. But no, I thought that was great. But I think a character that you just brought up that we should probably talk about for sure is the Enchantress. I think that a lot of people were like, what the hell with the Enchantress? Do you want to talk a little bit?
Yeah, and that kind of also ties into the point that I would make, comparing some of the, stuff with the original Beauty and the Beast from 1991 to the current one from 2017. Just right off the bat, the opening sequence, obviously in 1991 they did it through the stain, they did it through the stained glass windows, and it served its purpose. But then when you actually have the live action version, and you see right off the bat they're just going right into it. They have all the actors and they have all the everything like that. The old woman that comes in who turns out to be the Enchantress, I thought, oh my gosh, wow, they really found a way to just make it just amazing. Like it's just yeah. What's that?
Theatrical, very theatrical,
gosh, yeah.
with the paint on him to still cover up what he really looks like, because that's a big thing for Beauty and the Beast is we don't really get to see the prettiness of the Beast until the end. So I liked how they painted him. They put him in all the wig, everything. They added a new song with a brilliant opera singer who was cast as the wardrobe. I loved all that. And it was basically like the irony, of the whole situation. Like, she was basically singing the irony of, no, you're not good enough for him. He'll go next to another one. He doesn't care about you. And that was literally, she was legit saying all the fallacies in this situation. It was honestly ridiculous. Like, when I was watching it, I was like, this is ridiculous, but this is how his lifestyle was. And obviously that's when the Enchantress was first introduced. And what I liked is I kind of thought they were going to follow the Enchantress somehow. And I liked how she showed up multiple times within the story to be kind of a voice of reason and recollect, like, oh, okay, let's bring it down. I'll save this guy's life. I'll help you guys get out. I'll be at the end to see the true love instead of having it just be like this thing that happens. I think a lot of people were confused by the Enchantress, but I think she was just one of those guiding arrows within the story to really point you in the right direction. I enjoyed her.
Definitely. You nailed it right on the head where, she was there when she turned him into a beast, and then she was there when he went back to being human. And honestly, I think she fit by very, very well. I think she wasn't, just like a pivotal role as much as people are making it seem out to be, but she was definitely one of those people that kind of, popped in like every now and then, because people have to remember that she wasn't the Enchantress for the entire movie. She was the Enchantress for the beginning and the end of it, but like halfway through she was just, what was her name? Agatha, just this random, poor beggar divorced woman, I believe it was, how they put it out to be.
Yeah, she was the Enchantress. She was hiding in the city.
Exactly, yeah.
So she was legit the Enchantress the whole time, but she was always keeping an eye on him, hoping that he would one day, break the spell, but he was failing and failing and failing, so she lived among the people and got to see all the basically crappiness of this little town, too, that was kind of overflowing with hate that started in the castle and would trickle down. And this one light in Belle, which was cool, is Belle was from out of town, and she noticed how bad kind of the town seemed like too. And I think the Enchantress was really just trying to help Belle's family by bringing them with him to the Beast. Obviously, she knocked down the tree. She did all that stuff.
Yeah. One of the other things I thought was actually interesting was during this whole spell sequence is that when they had, the big group of people, and, of course, she cursed everybody within the castle, everybody who worked within the castle, including the prince, but everybody else, basically, their minds were basically erased so that they didn't know, where the castle was. I thought that was actually a very interesting twist, and it played, I guess, a little bit of a pivotal role at the end where, the curse is broken, it's lifted, everything seemed like it came back to normal, and then all of a sudden everybody's just like, holy cow, I actually remember this place. I remember this place, and it just, it was interesting.
It was really cool, and it also tied in, like, you kind of got a hint of it right at the beginning, in the beginning sequence, when Belle asked Mr. Potts, who we didn't really realize he was Mr. Potts, but, like, hey, like, did you forget something again? He's like, yeah, I don't remember what I was supposed to remember. Like, darn it, I know I'm forgetting something. And he's forgetting his family, his wife and his son, who has been stuck in this castle. That's why, Mrs. Potts was like, oh my God, Mr. Potts, like, don't hit me. I loved that. I thought that was a great a great little piece of the story, because it did seem weird. Like, how do really you don't know that there was a castle, like huge castle that was up here? Like, oh, she erased their memory. Smart.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Another difference from this movie was I think the motivation. And somebody actually pointed this out in an article, which was really good. I think it probably was. I think a lot of the resources were probably from moviepilot.com. Go check them out, you guys. But they pointed out, some of the differences. And one of the differences was the motivation for having Belle's father as captive. I think in the original one, it was kind of just like, Beast was just like, oh, I'm keeping you captive just because, you're trespassing, blah, blah, blah. But it seemed like with this new live action one, there seemed like there was a lot more of a motivation behind it. And one of the motivation was, he had some of the food, he had some of the drink, everything like that. But at the end, before he gets captured, he finds a rose in one of his gardens, takes it for Belle, and that's when the Beast comes in and just, takes him captive, which, hey, that's a hint to a classic, which I thought, oh my gosh, they went back to the classic Beauty and the Beast. I love it. And I don't know, I thought that was actually very interesting that they did that, but also I kind of liked that version better where it's like, okay, it's still revolving around a rose. Great, we're doing something that I think happened in the classic version.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was a great change that they did, that they added that the reason he got captured was because he picked a rose for Belle, and that's her guilt is then there to motivate her to stay in the capsule instead of her father. So it made more sense. Good. It was a really good change.
Yeah, and again, it was one of those like subtle changes that, some people would notice, but they would probably notice to the point where it's just like, what, the rest of the movie makes up for it, so it doesn't really matter really too much. I mean, for me, like I said, it was just one of those movies where I noticed all these subtle changes, like, well, that wasn't in the original, or that wasn't in this one, or blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's not really that big a deal. Nothing really too crazy. Another one was the chemistry between Emma Watson's Belle, and I'll mention the actor's name, Dan Stevens, Beast, was the chemistry between the two of them. It started off very slow. And I mean, you mentioned this to me, via text. Like, it starts off slow and then just starts picking up a bit. But after a while, it really does start to make a little bit of sense. And the fact they even did some things like, do like these little subtle deals where they're just like, oh, hey, the Beast is starting to lighten up a bit. He's starting to make like these little jokes. Oh gosh, what was it? The joke that he made during the library scene where she asked, have you read all the books? And he's like, not really. Most of them are in Greek. It's like, did you just make a joke? And he just says, maybe. He just walks away. I'm just like, dude, that was so cheesy, but that was so good at the same time. I love it.
It was cute. I think, can we talk about the two characters the two main characters? I want to talk about Belle and the Beast.
Yes, that's what we can definitely move into. So they added a lot more background to Belle and Beast during this entire deal, and it really shows during I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was after the whole library scene. I think it was maybe 5-10 minutes, a little bit later, when I guess Beast has this book that was given to the Enchantress, which a lot of people are saying, why did the Enchantress give him this? What was the point of this? And for me, it's kind of like, I think one of the reasons why is that Beast is still subconscious about how he looks. So now this is kind of like the only way that he can actually see the outside world is through this book. So he can actually see, okay, this is what France looks like. This is what Russia looks like. This is what blah, 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 blah. Because obviously he's not going to go out there unless it's probably for like some kind of reason. Maybe it's for hunting or something like that. I don't know. But it's one of those things where watch it, where Belle, pictures where she wants to go. It's in, and again, another funny line where she just said, do you want to see Notre Dame, Eiffel Tower? Too touristy? I was like, wow, they put that line in there? Are you kidding me? Okay, still fine with that. At least And there's a point I think where I was like, if they put an Uber line in here somewhere, I'm gonna lose it, but it's still gonna be funny.